everybody, Red Carruthers here with your Future Stars Friday forecast on this 2-year-old Tuesday. I just got to tell you, first off, before I get to my very special guest, we had a wonderful showing of our Future Stars Friday alumni this past weekend, Oaks and Derby weekend. And it started off on the Derby, Oaks undercard rather, with a day out of the office for Tim Ham. She had not run since her second place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and she made a fabulous accounting of herself in the Grade 2 8 bells, running second again for Tim Ham, Blazing Meadows, Sienna Farm. She had Gerardo Corrales up. And then on the Derby undercard, well, dear goodness, Jackie's Warrior, he put in such a gutty performance. He repelled the assault of Dream Shake in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile. That was for Asmussen, Kirk and Judy Robinson, and rider Joel Rosario. And then in the Derby itself, our reigning champ, Essential Quality. Okay, he didn't finish first, he didn't finish second, third, but he did finish fourth, and it was a really gutty fourth. And if you accounted for ground loss, which amounted to about 8 to 9 lengths, and then adjusted the time based upon that, that could have put him in the winner's circle. And then our runner-up from the juvenile, Hot Rod Charlie rather, he actually, if you adjusted the time there, he had the second fastest. But, you know, it all comes down to what who the horse was who actually crossed the wire first. So taking nothing away from the winner, Medina Spirit. And what a trip he had from gate to wire. He just took that field the whole way under Johnny V, and he gave Bob Baffert a record-setting 7th win in the Kentucky Derby. And this is for Zaydon Stables and Gail Rice, breeder. And I gotta say, it's just also very remarkable. This horse once sold for a mere $1,000 before Zaydon then picked him up for $35,000. So again, big congratulations to everybody involved there. And speaking of Johnny V, he actually took the Derby Oaks double. He had taken the Oaks with a horse trained by my special guest, and I'm talking about TODD PLETCHER and Malathaat. Hi, Todd.
Hey, Ren, how are you?
I'm doing great, and you must be feeling fabulous. I know the Todd squad in the Derby didn't, you know, get the trip that you were probably hoping for, but Malathaat surely did not disappoint in, you know, finishing Mom's unfinished business with the Oaks.
No, she did not. It was a great run from her, and similar to her dam, didn't get away real well, not to the extreme circumstances that Dreaming of Julia encountered in her Oaks, but she didn't get away great. But John Velasquez did a great job of getting her back into the position that we had hoped going into the first turn, and then she delivered from there.
Well, we can actually have you talk about the trip and actually show it. First of all, what I would like to do is actually take it back, because speaking of her dam, Dreaming of Julia, this was a horse who was just freakishly talented, who you trained and who Johnny rode. And she was going into the Oaks as the favorite. What was it, 21 3/4 length victory in the Gulfstream Park Oaks? Something like that?
Yeah, it was something crazy like that, and I think maybe a 113 buyer figure. It was just a monstrous performance.
Insane. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That was a stacked Kentucky Oaks as well, with Beholder in there also, and we had an unlimited budget. It was a really strong group of fillies. I think Closed Hatches was in there as well. I mean, it was just stacked with Grade 1 winners.
Oh, and what happened at the beginning of the race really and truly decided it. So we're going to take a look here. And everybody pay attention to the start of this race. I believe Dreaming of Julia is in stall 8, correct?
Sounds right. I haven't seen it in a while.
Okay. Well, here it goes. Let's see here. Oh, I can make it bigger. I mean, that was... What were you thinking when that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was bad, but I think actually going back later on and seeing the head on and some still photos, I mean, it was just, she really got eliminated, taken out of, you know, her normal stalking early position. And yeah, I thought, considering really that she ran on to finish a relatively close fourth, was a tremendous effort on her part.
Oh, definitely. And the funny thing is, or maybe not so funny, I don't know how you look at it as the trader, but you do still end up winning this race with Princess of Silmar. And I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe she went off at something like 38 to 1.
Yeah, she was She was not as highly regarded as our other couple of entrants, but she had a very good form coming into it, and she was second in the Gazelle beforehand, but had won a couple stakes prior to that at Aqueduct, and so we didn't think we were out of line taking a chance with her. It was one of those things. Like I said, it was such a loaded race, and it seemed like a tall order for any of them. But yeah, everything set up really well for her. She got a little pace up front. Mike Smith gave her a great trip, and she delivered for. What was fun about that for the Stanko family is this was the only horse they had in training, and it comes from a relatively modest background, a Pennsylvania bred filly, and for her to be able to win the Oaks, I mean, Ed was texting me on Oaks Day this year, 8 years later, and still can't believe that they'd won the Oaks. So that was really cool.
No, it's definitely cool. And you'll see here, Dreaming of Julia toward the middle of the track, just trying to get there. I mean, that's all heart and guts.
Yeah, for her to come from where she did after that start and still be gaining late here, that was a tremendous effort on her part.
And so then we go from that performance to the expectations. I mean, before I show this replay and have you talk through it, was there added pressure considering the fact that there were so many things at play here? Because to take it back with Malathaat, I mean, here you have a horse who was purchased from Stone Street. Chadwell got her for $1,050,000, and why not? She's by Curlin. She's out of Dreaming of Julia by AP Indy, and she's so obviously beautifully bred. You have her now for Shadwell again, who, I mean, they had just lost their patriarch of the whole operation with Sheikh Hamdan bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who is the deputy minister of Dubai. And so you have a filly now that originally Kieran was going to get, but then he retired to go on as jockey's agent for Luis Saez. So you got her. You get her, into the swing of her career. She's going now into the Oaks undefeated. And also, not necessarily on the schedule that you had first anticipated, because I believe she took some time off in respect for the passing of Sheikh Hamdan, correct?
Right. She was originally supposed to run in the Gulfstream Oaks on Florida Derby Day, and unfortunately, we got the news of the passing of Sheikh Hamdan, and it was very important to Rick Nichols that he pay respect to Sheikh Hamdan. And when Sheikh Hamdan's older brother had passed away, who was the patriarch of Gainsborough, Sheikh Hamdan told Rick Nichols, do not run any Shadwell horses for 10 days out of respect. And so Rick felt like it was appropriate to do the same for him. So it was fortunate that we had the Ashland as a backup plan, and it was a race that we had actually spoken about, trying to make potentially anyways. But because the Gulfstream Oaks was 5 weeks out, we felt like that was maybe a little better prep. But it all worked out, in the end. Unfortunately, the most sad part is that Sheikh Hamdan wasn't able to be able to see it, and yeah, we're all sure he would have enjoyed it very much.
Oh, undoubtedly. I would imagine, though, that he knew before he passed that he did have a very special filly, because she was impressing people right from the jump. She won the Tempted Stakes in just her second start by 7 3/4 lengths. You had to know that. What is it like for you when you get the progeny of a horse that you trained to such a high level?
It's very satisfying, very rewarding. I mean, this filly we loved at the September sale. I mean, she was a beautiful filly, and we actually tried to buy her ourselves and came up a little bit short. And so when I found out that I was going to be able to train for Shadwell, actually even before that, when we got back from the September sale and I saw Kieran McLaughlin at Belmont, and I said, Kieran, are you going to get that Dreaming of Julia filly? And he said, yeah, I think she's going to get allotted to me. And I was like, awesome, man. That's like, I love that filly. And so it worked out that when Karen decided to take Luis's book, that she was allocated to us, and I was just really excited to get her in, and literally from the day she walked into the barn, she's never disappointed us in any way.
No, definitely not. And that undefeated record going into the Oaks, is there added pressure when you have a horse that's not been beat, or do you figure, there's a good chance any horse is going to get beat on any given day, so let's just go run our race?
No, I mean, I feel added pressure when I expect to win. And I had so much confidence in this filly and the way she was doing, the way she was training, the way she had breezed at Churchill, and just so much confidence in her ability that I felt like we had a really, really good chance to win. And when I feel that way, then I get a little nervous. So yeah, it was a fun, anxious, and then when she broke like that, I got a little bit nervous. The first 100 yards of the race didn't go as planned, but the next 100 yards went really well for us, and I thought that was key. When we got to the first turn, I felt a little better, and you know, she got in a good fight with an awfully good filly, and kept
Yeah.
finding a little more, and I thought it was you know, a tremendous effort on her part for only her second start of the year.
Well, yeah, we can take a look at this here. And the other thing that I have to say about this filly too is what really impressed me going into that race, especially was the fact that she was coming out of the Ashland and she was able to win it not only off the bench, but she was able to close into a pace that wasn't very hot.
No, in the Ashland, I really felt like with the short run to the finish line at the 16th pole at Keeneland for the mile and 16th races, that when she came off the turn and George's filly had kind of spurted away, I was like, uh-oh, we got a lot to do from here. And for her to kick in and run the last quarter, I think in 23-2, it's just she you know, everyone that rides her tells me, Joelle said this, and Johnny said it, and Amelia Green and Adele Bellinger get on her in the mornings told me she just like she likes to identify a target and go get it, and when she has one, she'll go after it. But she also sometimes when she gets to that target, she kind of thinks that it's mission accomplished. And Johnny said that you know, when he came off the turn and he asked her, she really gave him that big kick to the leader. But then he said once she got there, he wasn't as worried as maybe we were watching it, because he felt like he had a lot of horse underneath him when he did get to search results.
Well, you know, a quick question also. Going back, I just seeing that start again because I actually was on site. So some of these races, I haven't even gotten a chance to really look at the replays from the day of. And did you have any sense of, oh no, because just watching that start again, she got slammed out of the gate.
Yeah, she did. And actually, on the way over to the paddock, I was being interviewed, and you know, I almost felt like I jinxed myself, because I said I just hope she gets off to a better start than you know, than her dam did, and then you know, I was thinking, man, you shouldn't have said that, because it wasn't as severe, but it definitely, she got knocked around a little bit, and then and like I said, wasn't exactly in the position that we wanted to, because I thought we'd analyzed the race the way it unfolded. I thought we had analyzed it exactly the way the pace unfolded, who was where they were. And, you know, Johnny made that quick decision, like, okay, even though we didn't get away well, I'm going to try to get back in that spot where we wanted to be. And he was able to do that.
And what a great moment that was, seeing Arad congratulate Johnny on such, you know, on accomplishing winning the Kentucky Oaks against, you know, out of that big duel. I mean, I know that Arad looks to Johnny as a mentor for very good reason. So that must have been touching for you as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was, and I was able to talk to both Johnny and Irad about that. I think it was, you know, it was one of those things that Irad really felt, you know, it was heartfelt, and he had so much admiration for Johnny, and you know, he felt like that he said, hey, I rode a great race, and it was a great duel, and we both did everything we could. And so, you know, I mean, a lot of times you get in that situation and you're angry or upset, but he felt like, you know, look, it was just hats off to, you know, to another great horse, and one of the best jockeys we've seen.
Well, the other thing that's just so wonderful, when you just think of all the connections, because you know, Johnny and you actually won your first Oaks together with Hall of Famer Ashado. So this is back in 2004, and to now, I mean, just the journey you've all traveled together. It's gotta feel especially rewarding that you're winning the Oaks together, and then to go on to see Johnny win the Derby with Medina Spirit. I'm sure that, you know, even though you had horses in the race too, I'm sure it still made it a very impactful event to see somebody who's been so important in your life take that double.
Oh yeah, we were delighted for Johnny, and I mean, what a couple of great rides. I mean, he put the horse on the lead, and you know, when I was watching the race and looking at my horses, but when Medina Spirit turned up the backside at the 3/4 pole and put his ears up, I thought to myself, "Uh-oh, this could be dangerous here." So I was kind of like hoping someone would go up there. I was like, "Come on, Soup and Sandwich, put a little more pressure on him, put a little more pressure on him." But you know, he just kind of he got to the backside exactly the way you'd want to, and you know, I knew he was going to be dangerous from there.
Now, seeing this start here in the Derby, there was something made of Alex Evers, who, by the way, if you go to Alex Evers at _Evers on Twitter, he's got some fabulous photos that he's taken for Eclipse Sports Wire, including a beautiful shot of Johnny and Arad crossing after they crossed the wire there in the Oaks. But he also had a great shot of Joel Rosario. His foot had come out of the stirrup on Rock Your World as they came out of the gate. And there was something, you know, some people were speculating that with the gate being more narrow now, the stalls being more narrow because we don't have the auxiliary gate, that maybe as he came out, his foot had come out. And obviously, if you don't have your foot in a stirrup, your balance can be affected, which then could have affected the way the horse comes out, which could have led to some of that crush. What did you make of that yourself?
Well, actually, yeah, I spent quite a bit of time in the new gate this past week before, because you know, we wanted to make sure and stand all of our horses in that gate, because it is. I don't think that it's so much smaller than the normal gate, but there's some additional padding in there, and the pontoons are very narrow, so the guys, you know, the assistant starters standing on them are up a little bit tighter against the horses or the jockeys, and so there's not a lot of wiggle room in there. Generally, you know, when a horse is in the gate, they have a little bit of space from side to side and from front to back, but because of the additional padding in the 20 stall gate, there's not much room. So I haven't watched closely to Rock Your World exactly what happened at the start, but I would say there's a decent chance that maybe Joel Stirrup bumped off the assistant starter, and he lost his footing there a little bit when he didn't get away cleanly. And I really thought that he potentially was a horse that could do what Medina Spirit did. I thought he was the horse in the field that could potentially go wire to wire like he did in the Santa Anita Derby. And you know, it's just things can change in an instant in any race, but this one for sure.
Well, again, that was Baffert's 7th win in the Kentucky Derby. And with Medina Spirit, again, $1,000 at one point he was sold for. But you have a connection to him beyond just Johnny and you. But also, you trained his sire, Protonico. So, and here's the thing. I mean, it is kind of funny because one of your nicknames, I'm sure, well, I'm going to drop some of your nicknames, actually. I want to know if you have a favorite one. So, because I know which one's my favorite of all of them. So we got the Suit, we've got the Toddster, and we got the Todd Father. That one's my favorite. Because
I haven't heard the Todd Father.
You haven't heard the Todd Father?
That's a new one. I like that.
Well, we got to get that all set up. Maybe Old Smoke can make a T-shirt, the Todd Father. Because here's the thing, like, I'm sure you've heard it many times before. We've discussed this before. And I think actually one of my friends, Alicia Wentz, just recently wrote an article going over this as well. But not only have you just been a tremendous trainer with horses, period, but there's just something with your training program that you've trained horses of such high caliber that they've gone on to be tremendous sires. I mean, we're talking about horses like More Than Ready, Uncle Mo, Spitestown. And again, Protonico is one of your horses, and he was getting no respect as a first sire. You know, sometimes that happens. This is a first crop representative. So, I mean, what were you thinking?
Well, actually, you know, Protonico is a very, very talented horse, and I was ironically looking back when I was coming back on Sunday, and I was looking at his past, or Monday, and his past performances, and his best race of his career was in the Ali Sheba on Derby Day when Johnny rode him. The only time I think Johnny rode him. So it was, when I was looking at it, I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. But he was a talented horse. Kind of had some ins and outs in terms of some physical setbacks at times. But when he was on his A game, he was a very talented horse, and a good looking horse and a brave horse. And so I'm I'm not surprised that he's capable of producing a nice horse. And I give the owner a lot of credit. Osama Abu Ghazali, not a lot of people would have sent him to stud in today's world. Horses like that oftentimes don't get an opportunity, but here's a case of a horse that his owner gave him a chance, and through, I'm sure, I don't even know how many were in this full crop, but it couldn't have been a whole lot. And to have a Derby winner, it's remarkable.
I might be wrong about this, but I think I saw something that there were 12 named foals in that
Wow.
same.
Yeah, I was going to guess 20, but 12 very well is probably right.
And the thing is Hello Protonico is by Giants Causeway and out of an AP&D mare.
Yeah, it's good bloodlines.
Yeah, and the other thing that is so interesting when you put it in the perspective is, so Johnny wins the Oaks with Malathaat, whose dam he rode in Dreaming of Julia, and he wins the Derby with Medina Spirit, and he rode the Sire, Protonico. It's kind of fun, right? When you look at it that way.
Yeah, it is. It is cool when you start seeing horses that you're around early on, and it's great to see them go on and do well as producers.
And speaking of Malathaat, so I'm Middle Eastern. I've been trying to check in with my cousins because I am not fluent. And I've been trying to rack my brain because obviously when you translate Arabic names, Middle Eastern names from the script into English, it doesn't always translate exactly as you would say it. Do you know for sure what they define as her name in English?
I do not.
Okay, so my cousins tell me, and I've got two, my cousins actually have two different versions of it, but then again, a lot of words in Arabic that can have dual meanings. One of my cousins tells me that it basically means like a haven, a refuge, and which makes sense.
Right.
They love words like that. So there's that definition of it, and the other definition is sort of like a continuation of a conversation, which that could mean potentially continuing on what her sire and dam did, I guess. But those are what my cousins are telling me. I've also heard it can mean beautiful, but which fits. But yeah, there's been a number of definitions rolling around, and I'm just trying to figure out for sure which one they intended with that name. One of the other things I want to bring up is the fact that I read where you were telling me not only she's tremendously talented, but she's got a personality to match.
She's so quiet and sweet around the barn. I mean, she's just, everything about her is professional and class, and I mean, aside from being a beautiful filly with this big heart-shaped star on her forehead, she has a personality to match. And it's rare that you find one that literally just does everything right. And Rags to Riches was extremely professional once she was on the track, but at the barn, I mean, she was tough, and this filly's just the opposite. She's very, very sweet.
Well, with Rags, not only did you win the Oaks with her, but she's one of only 3 fillies to have obtained running Malathaat against the boys in the Preakness or the Belmont Stakes, considering that also, I mean, she could hold her own anyway, but we also are seeing a lot of horses who aren't going forward into the Preakness and a lot who may be skipping the Belmont as well. Would you try her there? She was Triple Crown nominated.
Well, we did talk about way back when the first round of nominations closed. Rick Nichols and I spoke about nominating her to the Triple Crown, and we decided that we felt like she was good enough to at least have that option out there should we ever want to step out. And actually, after the Ashland, Rick had mentioned that he wouldn't be afraid to run her in the Derby. Of course, with the current point system, it's very difficult for fillies to make it in there, and I think that's something that might be addressed at some point, but that's a different conversation altogether. But so anyways, I mean, we have spoken about it, and I think, like always, we'll see how the filly comes back and how she trains. I would highly doubt that running her back in 2 weeks would be in play, but we'll see how she does, and I think certainly has the pedigree to run a 1.5 miles if we wanted to step out. But
that's for sure.
She also has an undefeated record, and it's a long season, and so we got a lot to think about. And so far, she flew back to Belmont yesterday and arrived in good order, and we're pleased with the way she's come out of it so far. But we need a little time to assess how she's doing before we make any decisions on her next start.
Well, here's another question for you since you brought up the point system. Considering now that we do have this point system in place, and I mean, if you even think back to like 2001 with point given, right? There's a lot of people who think that point given, had the current point system been in place back then, where it kept out a lot of the speedsters, where, I mean, that half of the Derby was run in 44-4. So it really set up, he got cooked. That track was playing so fast. And you have Monarchos come up and win. Do you think now with the current point system in place that it's generally we're going to see front end runners be favored, and it's going to be real? You've got to be a horse of tremendous caliber to close to win the Kentucky Derby at this point.
Well, there's definitely been a shift, and what we've seen result-wise, horses are laying closer to the pace and having more success than they did when the old system allowed the Tuffelsberg types to go in there, and they were appeared to be pure sprinters, but had enough graded earnings through 7 furlong races and such to get in there. So. But again, if Rock Your World gets away cleanly this past Saturday, then maybe him and Medina Spirit hook up, and all of a sudden they go 45 and change, and everything changes. So, but it definitely the point system has altered not only the pace scenario in a lot of cases, but it's definitely so far eliminated any fillies from really taking a shot at it. And, the thing you risk as a filly, if you need to run in a prep against colts to have a chance to get in, and then by doing that you jeopardize your chances of getting in the Oaks as well. So it could work against you in a couple of ways.
And sometimes you kind of peak. I mean, Dwayne Lucas, he had Althea, and she just crushed the boys in the Arkansas Derby. A gate dancer was in there, and then she was favored in the Derby itself, and the race didn't go that day. But sometimes these horses, like you were saying, you got to really map it out. And are you a trainer that you map backwards to work up to a race?
I usually work towards a target. I like to identify when I hope the race is going to be and point towards that race and work my way back. And that's the way we try to do it. And of course, you always have to be ready to call audibles when necessary. But that's I always feel like I hopefully can do a better job of getting one ready to run if I know when they're going to run.
Well, one that ran really well for you also on over this weekend on the Derby undercard, and what a thriller this was. We actually had a dead heat, and that is Colonel Liam. And I want to get your take on the race. I'm going to show it right here, the Old Forester Bourbon Turf Classic. And let's see here. This is a horse of just, undefeated this season. The beautiful gray here, the 3-horse, everybody who's watching. And so what was your take on this race?
So my biggest concern is I just didn't know who the pace setter was going to be. I didn't see a whole lot of pace on paper. And, I thought it was most likely going to be Michael McCarthy's horse, Smooth Like Straight, who does end up making the lead. And we were able to tuck in and set kind of the trip that we were hoping. And I thought he was just a touch keen because the fractions weren't real sharp, but Irad gave him a great ride, and we were fortunate to get our nose down and get part of the win anyways. And it was one of those that I couldn't tell when they hit the wire if he had won or not. And the more I watched the replay, the more confused I became. It was so close. And so it's not quite as rewarding to win in a dead heat situation or a tie, but it beats the heck out of second, that's for sure.
No, definitely. And what was it like there to be on site? Just not too far removed, because we just had the Derby card and Oaks card, the 4th and 5th of September, and we're already back, but now this time with the fans. So what was it like for you being on site, running horses of this caliber and, with some sense of normalcy around you?
Yeah, I think, it was, like you said, it was some sense of normalcy. It was by all intents and purposes a fantastic crowd. But if you've been there on normal Derby days and normal Oaks days, it just, there's few settings quite like that. And so you got a sense that it was getting close to that, but it wasn't exactly the the packed house that you normally see. So, but it was great to be back there and to see so many people enthusiastic about it. And, it gives you confidence that hopefully we're a year away from back to a normal Derby.
Oh, that would be nice. Somebody really wants an answer to this question. Does Todd have an update on Happy Saver?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, he's back in training with us. He's had 4 breezes so far. He's doing great, and he'll breeze this weekend at Saratoga, and he's, I would guess, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 weeks away from a run. And the idea was to give him some time off, freshen him up, so we could hopefully have a summer and fall campaign that hopefully gets us to the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Awesome. And let's talk about going into the fact of, Saber brings up obviously Super Saver, thinking about winning the Derby there. I want to preface this, everybody, by I'm talking to a Hall of Famer. I know it's not official yet. It's going to be official tomorrow. It's going to be official tomorrow. You're first ballot Hall of Famer. You are. So I kind of want to take it back because obviously I don't want to overlook your Derby wins. And I haven't gotten to it yet because I wanted to take it back first, like I was saying, to set it up because this is so important. This announcement is going to be made tomorrow. When you first started training, you worked a bit for your father before you got your own license, and you've worked for D. Wayne Lucas, and you've worked with Charlie Whittingham. What can you tell us about your early tutelage, and what were the most profound insights that you've taken with you from back then that you still employ today?
Well, I mean, I've been blessed, so many different ways, but being introduced to racing through my dad, and actually my dad was introduced to racing through my mom's brother. So, it really comes from both sides of the family. But I was just as a kid, as early as, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, I was always going out to the barn with my dad on weekends, and I just, I loved going out there and was hot walking at a young age. And I think you kind of go through your childhood years and you're going about your business and you're learning things, but you don't know you're learning. You're exposed to it, and so you're kind of absorbing it. But I think my dad, I worked for him for long enough, and he was smart enough to say, hey, spend a couple of summers and work for some other guys and see the way other people do it. And he had a good friend in California who trained on the Southern California circuit named Henry Marino, who was a very, very good trainer and was really one of the first guys to import a lot of mares from Argentina and South America. And so not only was he a great trainer, but he was a great guy and a fun guy to be around. And so we had a lot of good times. I worked for him for a couple of summers, and then spent a summer working for Wayne and spent a summer working for Charlie Whittingham. And just, I was trying to absorb as much as I could, ask as many questions as I could, and just learn as much as I could during those times while still working. And so before I graduated from college, I spoke to Wayne, and he said that he'd have a job for me when I graduated. And I think really one of the big breaks that I got during all that was that when I did graduate and called him and said, where do you want me to go? And he said, go to New York, and you're going to work with my son, Jeff, there. And so I can't tell you how much of an influence Jeff was. He was a strict disciplinarian, attention to detail, a great horseman. And, I learned a tremendous amount from him. And then the other 6 months of the year, when Jeff would go back to California, Kieran McLaughlin was the assistant. So I worked under him. So, just 2 terrific guys to learn so much about not only the way you operate the barn, but the way you handle the employees and the other assistants and the boss, and just got so much great advice from those guys, and just got lucky to fall into the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, you were just discussing this, and was Sunday silence in the barn at that point?
So Ferdinand and Judge Angelucci and Goodbye Halo, and I mean a lot of good horses were in the barn, and I don't think Sunday Silence, because I was there in the summer. He might have came in like just after I had left. I was at Hollywood Park, and when everyone went to Del Mar, I went back to school. But so it was right after that. But yeah, I mean it was a caliber of horses that I had never seen before, and it was intimidating to like go in there and and be around those type of horses. But
Gosh, I'm sure, right? Well,
yeah.
do you have a specific memory of like of perhaps being around one in particular that you just have a more profound memory of?
Well, I mean, I think in particular, those two, Ferdinand and Judge Angelucci, are probably
Yeah.
two of, if not the best older horses in training, and a Kentucky Derby winner. And literally one of the first days, that I was there, I was like walking one of those horses, like, holy cow, I can't believe around these type of horses. But it was a great place to work, and Mr. Whittingham was a just such an awesome guy. And I was telling someone the other day, I went to see him the afternoon before I was going to start to work, and I said, "Mr. Whittingham, what time should I be here tomorrow?" And his answer was early. And so I showed up at like 4:15, and he
Oh
was already
my,
there. So it was like, I mean, that's
wow.
just kind of the work ethic that he had. And those guys took pride in being some of the first ones to the barn, and first one on the racetrack at 5:30 when it opened. And but he was always very, very generous with his time. And anytime I'd ask him a question, he would always give me a minute to teach me something. So I was grateful for that.
Wow. Did the Todd back then have any idea of the Todd you would become? I mean, you've trained 11 Eclipse champions. I mean, a Hall of Famer and a Shadow. And you've got Rags to Riches sitting there on that same ballot with you. So that's got to feel really cool, I would think. Um, it's just remarkable. I mean, the earnings, over 22,000 starts, and this is just North American stats. Over 5,000 wins, over $405 million in earnings. Again, I mean, 7-time Eclipse champion award for outstanding trainer. And we see a lot of that hardware right there behind you. Did you have any inkling that if I can just get the right horses, I can be big time? I can become the Todd father.
No, to be honest with you, I didn't. I just, my goal was just get out there and work as hard as you can and do the best you can. And when I went out on my own, I left in at the end of November of '95, beginning of December '95, and working for Wayne at that time. I mean, it was a loaded barn coming off, I think 5 consecutive Triple Crown races at that time, and Breeders' Cup wins, and
You were around for Thunder Gulch and Serena Song, right?
Thunder Gulch, Serena Song, Tabasco Cat, and
No.
a number of Timber Country. Yeah, I mean, it was so. I left that, and I started up in December of '95 at Hialeah and had 7 horses, none of whom had won a race. So sort of like going from one end of the spectrum to the other, but just felt like it was time to give it a shot and sink or swim.
Well, we just saw during the Derby, it was D. Wayne Lucas who gave the Riders Up call, which I thought was really cool, especially since this was the year that we had, again, some fans back. And so it just felt very fitting to have him do that. Have you talked to him about your induction at all?
Actually, Wayne could not have been any nicer to me after I was driving back from the barn to the hotel after the Oaks, and he called me on the way back and congratulated me on that, and said, I know it's going to be official next week, and it's a great honor, and we're proud of you, and those kind of things. So he's always been super, super kind about any success that we've been fortunate enough to have.
Well, it is interesting because, as you were saying, there's just been so many great trainers who've gone off from under working with him. And what do you think it was about his program? And, obviously he still trains. What is it about his program that produces not only talented horses, but talented horsemen?
Well, I think it's a great learning environment, and he, before being a horse trainer, he was a coach, and I think he brings forth that coaching mentality to to his barn and to his staff, and he's always looking to, sort of not only tell you what to do, but tell you why he wants you to do it that way. And so he kind of has that coaching mentality. And like I said, Jeff was a big influence on me, and he was a great person to learn from, because he wanted things done a certain way, and there were no bones about it, and he expected to perform at a high level when you worked for him. And I think a classic case of one of those guys that makes people around him better. And so I really enjoyed working for him, and learned a lot.
No, definitely. I'm sure, and it's got to feel good that to have. I would say that between Charlie Whittingham and T. Wayne and his son Jeff, it feels like you've gone through the master class, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's it's interesting, because I know Wayne would oftentimes draw comparisons to basketball or other sports, and it is very similar. You see a lot of coaching trees, Coach Knight and Coach K and all these guys that work together, and Dean Smith and Roy Williams, and I think people that want to learn from successful people tend to have a reason why they want to do that, and ultimately hopefully go on and do accomplish some of those things on their own. So I think his part of the reason why his program has been so successful is that he's the kind of person that attracts people that want to succeed, and not only while they're working for him, but in some cases when they go on their own. And so similar to what you see in a lot of great coaches.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to talking about the Kentucky Derby now, you've won it with Super Saver. You won in 2017 with Always Dreaming. What is it about the Kentucky Derby? And maybe this isn't the case for you, but it just seems like the Kentucky Derby is the race for any trainer to win. Is that how you see it in your mind as well? Or I mean, is that the pinnacle, I guess, because it's just the most well-known race that we have here in the States? And is there a race that you still want, or that you've not won that you want to? It's a goal of yours to get.
Well, I think the Derby is definitely everyone's dream race, and for the reasons you said, it's the race that everyone follows, even if you're not per se a horse racing fan. To me, it's it's a little bit like the Masters. I don't watch golf very often on TV, but there's something special about the Masters. I think the Derby, it's a bucket list race that so many people want to attend, and it's the one race that everyone knows. And then, like everyone tells you, it's the if you meet someone on an airplane, and assuming there's no social distancing, and they find out you're a trainer, that's probably the first question they're going to ask you, is if you've ever run or won the Kentucky Derby. So from that perspective, I think it's everyone's dream race. And we've taken as many tries as anyone, and failed more than anyone. So but I think that we don't put our whole program around there. We try to do the best we can to do well there, but we also hopefully have a well-balanced table and can do well in, kind of every race, whether it's short, long, turf, dirt, what have you. And so, I think one of the things that hopefully we can do well is train any kind of horse. It doesn't have to be a specific one, but the one race that I would love to win that we haven't is the Dubai World Cup. And, there's something really cool about it. I know when Cold Front won the mile, and he comes by the wire, and the announcer says it's Cold Front for America, and it's got almost like a little bit of an Olympic feel to it. And so
Yeah.
that's the one out there that I would love to get.
Well, would you say also regarding the Derby, I would just thinking about just all the variables that go into it. You know, restricted to 3-year-olds, the mile and a quarter, the 20-horse field, and just the crowd that these horses have to face that they will never see again unless there was a Triple Crown on the line, for example. I would think it's got to be the hardest race to win, to have a horse peak just right to win, with all those odds stacked against it. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so. And it's just there's so many little things that can happen during the course of the race, and some of it depends on what year your horse happens to be born in. For example, we ran Bluegrass Cat, and he finished second to Barbaro, and I think he ran well enough to win a lot of derbies. But Barbaro ran well enough that he would have won a lot of derbies too. So,
Oh.
a lot of it depends on just hoping you show up in the right crop. But yeah, there's just so many different variables and that go into it, and you get with each horse gets one chance at it.
Well, you've had so many great horses, and talking about the worldwide aspect of it. I mean, even with the Breeders' Cup, and Vito Rosso. I got to tell you, I saw that horse. Or do you say Rosso or Rosso? I hear it both ways all the time.
I've probably said it both ways. We usually say Vino Rosso, but
Okay. But with that horse, I remember seeing him the morning of the Breeders' Cup. And I don't think you could see any horse who looked better in the flesh that day than that horse looked. What does it take to get a horse primed and ready to put in a type of performance that he put in the Classic?
well, I think in his case, I mean, like a lot of the Curlins, he was just going to get better as he got older, and we knew from early in the year when he went out and won the San Diego Gold Cup that he liked the track there, and it was a little bit of a deeper track that he just seemed to power through. But I would say there's probably been 10 or 12 times in my career where I came into a race feeling like we were really, really going to be tough to beat. And, like I said earlier, when Malathaat would be another example of that, when you just feel like, you've got the best horse and the horse is doing really well. And, all the stars are aligned. And that's the way we felt with him coming into the Classic. And so we were just couldn't wait for race day to get there.
Well, off the stud he is. It also has to be fun with that group of ownership and whatnot. And I mean, to think of it this way too, to take it all the way back with Shadow, she gave you your first Breeders' Cup win. You now have 11 victories. One of those, Uncle Mo. I love Mike Rapoli. He's awesome, and it's got to be really, really fun to win with such a big group of people that he brings in the winner's circle.
Yeah, he does. And actually, we didn't do very well in the Derby with his horse this year, but we were talking afterwards, and he said, you know what? This is the first time since the pandemic that I've been able to get all my friends and family together in the last couple of days. And it was the day after the Derby. It was a year since his grandmother passed away, and so they had all gotten together. And he said, "Listen, don't worry about that we didn't do well. This meant so much to me and my family to get together." And that's just the kind of guy he is, that even though you just disappointed him with a poor run in the Derby, he picked you up and made you feel good about it.
Oh, well, I mean, the Derby again, it's just so hard. Real quick, you had 4 horses in there, and that should just give you, everybody who's watching, just how hard it is to win the Derby or even hit the board. What's everybody going to be doing out of this? I know you have to assess everybody, see how everybody's doing, but just hypothetically that everything's good, everything's smooth, and your ideal scheduling for each horse would be what?
Well, I mean, I think ideally we've done pretty well bypassing the Preakness and going straight to the Belmont with those horses. And we've won 2 of them that way, and Rags of Riches ran in the Oaks. So, and we've had a number of pretty near misses. But so I would say the most likely scenario is Nona Jinder will train up to the Belmont, Bourbonic will train up to the Belmont, and we'll just play by ear with the other 2 and see how they do. We might not see Dynamic 1 again until a little bit later. And I think we also have Turf as an option with Sainthood being an Imshawish out of a limit drop mare. I thought he ran as well as he possibly could in the Derby. He gave it everything, and I'd like to breeze him on the turf before we decide for sure. But he ran well in the synthetic and the Jeff Rubies, and with that pedigree. And
Yeah.
One thing about the turf program in New York this summer, it's very lucrative and there's some good opportunities. So we'll probably breeze him on the grass before we decide anything.
Going back to Highly Motivated, how many Florida Derbies have you won, man?
I think 6.
That's crazy, right? And Quality Road, actually, not only did he win the Florida Derby, everybody, but then he beat his own record from what he put in the Florida Derby in the Dawn handicap. I mean, these horses are incredible that you've trained.
Yeah, no, his Dawn performance, I think, a lot of times people ask you the obvious question, who's the best horse you ever trained? And that's really hard to answer. I always tell them that there's certain horses that have put put forth performances that I think would put them up there against anyone. His and the Don was one example of that. I've always thought Left Banks Whitney, Laurie Ron's Whitney were races that historically a lot of famous horses would have had to really run to beat them on those days.
Well, and then Always Dreaming, he put in the fastest Florida Derby since Aladar.
He did. I mean, he had a stretch there that he was in such good form, and it was interesting because he ran in a 1.125 mile allowance race on Fountain of Youth Day as a prep for the Florida Derby, and it might have been the slowest track of the meet, and he was able to win on that, and then come back and win the Florida Derby on a much faster track, and so and then caught the slop in the Derby, and so it's just he was in such good form. I guess it didn't matter what kind of track he caught at that time.
And now his first babies are yearlings. Have you seen any of them, or do you have anybody saying, "Hey, I've got one I'm going to be sending you"?
I do have a few clients and that have bred some, obviously, and have bought some weanlings and such. And I usually don't shop the weanling market too much, so I'm sure I'll be seeing a lot of them this fall maybe in August, and this fall at the September sale. And we're hearing good things about them.
Well, I just remember the woman, I cannot think of her name right now. She's so nice. You probably can think of her name for me. She does the massage therapy for all the horses. I can't think of her name. I'm so sorry. But she's great at what she does. And she was telling me that horse, just getting her hands on him, he was like any horse that she'd been working with. And just the way he's put together and just the musculature that's over the bones, that she attributed that to him being, as talented as he was, to have the mechanics underneath.
Yeah, he had tremendous mechanics, and one of the things that I always loved watching him do was just walk the barn, and he had this like what I described as like a panther-like walk, where he just he had a low head carriage, and he just kind of, the way he just moved around the barn effortlessly, it was more like he was preying on someone instead of walking, but just he had a really efficient movement to him.
Yeah. A horse I've seen that I think of right away when you talk about panther-like movement from the Steve Asmussen barn is Gunrunner. He had that same type of understep, crawling forward, looking like he's ready to pounce. I have a lot of questions for you. You are very popular, Mr. Pletcher. Okay, so let's see here. First of all, I have Naja. You know Naja. Everyone knows Naja. Everyone loves Naja. One secret from the Pletcher program. Can he share who his tailor is? Yes, that's right, because they call you the suit. Come on.
No, because then Naja will go out and buy a suit and look better than me.
Okay, Naja, sorry, you've been shut down. I adore him. Let's see here. Jillian wants to know, did you work with Landa Lucy? I remember her lassie went at Hollywood Park. Breathtaking.
No, I did not work around her. Obviously, I can't remember how old at that time, but I remember watching her races, and it was unbelievable what she did in a couple of those starts. And actually talked to Angel Cordero a lot about her, and he had told me that he'd breezed her before she run, and how special she was.
Yeah. And Paul Lee in remembrance. Shame what happened to Jeff Lucas. I think it would have been a great rivalry between him and Todd if he wasn't injured by Tabasco Cat. I still believe a special contributor award should be given in Jeff's honor. That, I agree with that. That accident that happened on that backside, one of the things I think was most remarkable about it, beyond the fact that he survived it, is that Wayne never held it against the horse. Never held it against the horse. I think a lot of people might have done that, but he was able to compartmentalize that it's not like the horse was doing this with malice intent. It was an accident. And for Jeff to survive for as long as he did afterward was a miracle.
It was, and Wayne said that to everyone on the staff, that we're not going to hold it against the horse. We're gonna do the best we can with this horse, and certainly did that. He's able to win the Preakness and the Belmont, and it was a freak accident. It was no one's fault. It was just it was poor timing, and Yeah, I mean, it was a huge blow to the team. I mean, like I said, I think Jeff was really so instrumental in so much of the success in the organization, and especially with the other assistants and teaching them. And I think, had such a big influence on my life and Karen McLaughlin and Dallas Stewart, Mark Hennig, and so many guys that have gone on and done very well. And Wayne was a big part of that, but Jeff certainly was as well.
Do you feel brotherhood with everybody from that barn?
We do. I think that group, that there was an era there when Randy Bradshaw and Dallas Stewart and Mark Henning, Karen McLaughlin and I were there, that I think, we're all still good friends now, and there's I think some shared pride in what we were able to accomplish while we were there.
No, again, it's so nice to hear about, the camaraderie and the success that's come out of the Lucas program. Blessings to you, Todd Pletcher. Your day will come. This was in reference to winning the Dubai World Cup. She posted this, Marion, when you were discussing that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, let's see here. We've got Known Agenda and Vino Rosso, beautiful Curlin colts. That's for sure. Curlin, seriously, as a sire, has just been phenomenal.
He's been phenomenal, and we've had great luck with him going back, to Palace Malice, his first.
Yes,
really
2013 Belmont.
Yeah, and we've had some good fillies out of him as well. So we've been fortunate. We're big Curlin fans, obviously, and yeah, I've drawn the comparison. I see a lot of similarities in Vino Rosso and Known Agenda. I know that they're both able to win big preps as 3-year-old colts, while you still get the sense there's more to come, and as they get older and as they mature, they're gonna improve a little more.
That is always the difficulty, right? Because when you've got a young horse, and we're going to get into this in just a second to make it topical to the Future Stars Friday. But when you have a young horse, a lot of times, it's because they're precocious, and then the other horses develop and mature and either get as good or better than that horse, and then can surpass them. Do you usually have a sense early on when you have a young horse, whether it is the type that's going to be good at young, but then also develop further?
I think most of the really good ones, there's not a whole lot of mystery involved. In fact, a lot of them that my dad has prepared at the training center, he just told me before they even turned 2 how much he liked them. Scat Daddy coming to mind, and
Yeah.
I remember I usually talked to him pretty early in the morning, and I was driving to Palm Meadows, and I said, how's that? This is mid-December of this yearling year, and I said, how's the Johannesburg colt doing? And he said he's the best horse we've ever had on the farm.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, that's pretty early. Same thing with More Than Ready, and he loved English Channel even early on. So yeah, but a lot of the good ones early. Occasionally you'll have one that is a little slow to come around, but even the Known Agendas, the Vino Rosas, horses that are going to get better later on, they still tend to do some things in the morning that give you some clues that there's talent there, even though mentally it might take them a little while to get it all together.
Speaking of mentally, if you can go into your files of memory, best memory of Quality Road, the forelock, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, he was a gorgeous horse and had that forelock that everyone commented about and loved. And I thought one of the cool things about him is the first time that we ran him, and Jimmy Jerkins did a phenomenal job training before we got him, but he had a little bit of time from the Florida Derby until we ran him the first time, and we sprinted him in the Amsterdam at Saratoga, and I think he still holds the track record there. He ran like 6.5 and 1:13 and 4. So, to have a horse that could do that, and then also win the Med Mile and win the Dawn, he's just super talented horse that could do it all.
I remember being at Lane's End, and we were, there he still has that long forelock, and they were telling us that when the owner was doing the stud deal, one of the expectations within that deal was that forelock would not be touched.
Yeah, that would be a crime to cut that.
Have you seen sometimes some more unexperienced people, not necessarily in racing grooms, but just in show world or whatever, they cut those
Just chop it
bangs.
off. Yeah,
It's so good.
that's
Oh,
a no-no around the barn.
no, right. Oh, okay. So this person, Alex, would like to know, could Known Agenda go down a similar route as Vino Rosso? And Marlene wants to, Known Agenda's got a big fan base already. How's Known Agenda doing?
He's doing well. He flew back on the same flight as Malathaat to Belmont, arrived in good order, and I will say, I mean, I've watched the replay a number of times. I actually thought he ran a really good race in the Derby, and it was probably better than it looks on paper. And I don't blame post position one for the outcome, but there was a moment going by the eighth hole for the first time that Irad was like this close to getting the position he wanted, and that door closed, and instead of maybe being eighth or ninth, he got shuffled back to 18th going by the wire the first time, and felt like that really compromised his real chance of winning, especially the way the race kind of continued to the horses that were successful were pretty close to the pace the whole way around there.
You say you didn't blame the one hole, but when he first drew it, did your heart sink at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was down to there were three left, and us and Essential Quality, and I can't remember who the 16 was, but it was down to a 33% chance, and I think everyone was that was the elephant in the room, obviously at that point. But
Yeah.
I do believe that with the new starting gate that it's not as big a disadvantage as it used to be, and if he could have just been one step quicker to that spot, I think it could have made a big difference in where he finished up.
Alexandra says, "Hi Todd, I own a whisker or two of American Heiress. Looking forward to her coming back to your barn." I believe my racehorse, right?
Correct. Yeah, she's actually, I think, heading back to our barn tomorrow at Saratoga. So we're looking forward to getting her back. It's a beautiful filly.
And speaking of American Pharaoh, who is her sire, he is on the ballot for the Hall of Fame tomorrow. What's it like not only having Rags on that ballot, which obviously you've got that very intimate connection, but also you're getting in at the same time as our first Triple Crown champion in 37 years, from 78 to 2015.
Yeah, no, he's a phenomenal horse, and obviously shoe-in for the Hall of Fame. And he was in. We were in the same barn for the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland that year with Bob, and what a magnificent horse. Bob would come out and walk him in the afternoons, and he was a sight to see for sure. And yeah, I mean, remarkable that what Bob did with him, and what Bob does in general. But that was a phenomenal job.
Yeah, definitely. And that horse, I always say, I haven't seen since I've been alive anyway, any horse that's moved as efficiently as American Pharaoh. There was just something about the way he could throw his legs out from under him. I don't remember if it was Horatio Luro or it was somebody very famous, old school trainer, or it might have been a breeder, that said that you would like to see a horse move their legs like a ballet dancer, flick them out in front of themselves. And when I looked at him, that was the first time I could really see exactly that happening. I've seen it close, but that was like exact point on. How rare is it to see a horse move that well? I mean, you see so many.
Yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing is you see all kinds of horses move differently, and sometimes what you think would be a successful, real pretty action is not. And sometimes you'll see some of these high knee action horses that Skip Away comes to mind, that it doesn't look pretty, but it's very effective. So I think there's so much that goes into it, whether it's efficiency of stride or desire to win and lung capacity and the high cruising speed. There's just so many things. That's what makes it such an interesting game. Is it's so hard to pinpoint and figure out exactly what it takes.
What was it like seeing him win the Triple Crown, witnessing it happen after so long of a dry spell?
Yeah, I mean, I was there for most of those, and I actually had thought that I was pretty close to the wire when Real Quiet got nailed by Victory Gallop, and I thought that he had maybe got there, and so it was just I've said a number of times that I can't think of a sporting event. I've been fortunate enough to go to World Series and Super Bowls and what have you, but to me, when the Triple Crown's on the line, there's nothing like it. I mean, the atmosphere is just intense, and especially since there hadn't been a winner in so long leading up to that, it's an electricity like none other.
I always say it was almost like Arthurian legend and the sword was being pulled from the stone finally. And I did not get to go. I could not get off work. Matt Carruthers was there though. And, and he had a wonderful time. And he says he's never like you're talking about that, just the eruption of the crowd, and you had all strangers hugging each other and people crying, and it was just that electrified atmosphere. And it's just incredible what these horses can do and how they can move you. And it's exciting. And then of course we see Justify do it and everything. And speaking of Matt Carruthers, by the way, he says, did you party with Rapoli after Uncle Mo won the juvenile?
He must know the answer to that, because that was fairly epic. I don't know what the final tab was, but he might have broke even after winning the Breeders' Cup that night.
Nice. No, I remember we went to, I'm sure you've been there many times, Prime in Saratoga. Matt and I were having excellent service. It was a great time. And then suddenly we realized our service kind of tailed off a little bit. We're like, what's going on? Where's our waiter? We need the check. And we realized there's this big party going on in a back room. And it was because everybody was attending to my.
Yep. That sounds exactly right.
But the funniest part is Matt and Mike were texting each other through our dinner. We didn't realize we were both at the same place.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Right. So it was pretty funny from that perspective. Dear goodness, I got another person. Known Agenda. They love this horse. What do you think it is? What is it that captures fandom like this?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think his Florida Derby, was his coming out party, and since then he's picked up a lot of followers.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. And so now talking about the youngsters, because again, to keep it topical, and first of all, let me really quickly preface this by saying I've kept you already past an hour, so thank you very much. If you have to run, cry out for mercy, and I will let you go. So for the 2-year-olds, we're going to know more in about a month or so. You'll have a better read on it. But we've got Saratoga coming up, and obviously that's where all the really blue blood babies come out and get to strut their stuff, and we see if the story continues regarding those lineages. What is the process for you? Somebody earlier asked how many horses you have right now. How many horses are you anticipating getting? And then when a 2-year-old comes to your barn from the foundation training tracks, because I think people outside of racing, they think that a horse goes directly from the barn to you, to the track, and you do everything. But a lot, these horses go to their training programs, whether it's McCath Brothers or whatever. What's the process once they get in your barn?
Well, generally when we get them, at this time of the year, we'll get them in. They'll gallop for a week or so, and they will have done enough training wherever they're coming from in Ocala, whether it's my dad's training center, yes, Stone Street, or Eddie Woods, Nalbrun. They come from a lot of different people, and but generally the idea is most everyone's going to have them fit enough that after we gallop them for a week or so and get them acclimated to a new place, that we're going to be able to breeze them a quarter of a mile, and just take it easy the first time, kind of see where they are, see if they're as fit as they're supposed to be, and then it's kind of just building up from there. And obviously you're starting some gate work and all of those things that you just kind of educate them on, and so we had a group come in earlier in March that was at Palm Beach Downs, and most likely it'll be someone from that group who will be some of the first ones that are ready, because we've already had them long enough, and some of them are breezing a half mile now, but it's pretty straightforward, common sense stuff. You just keep building up as their fitness level gets a little higher.
I don't know if you know yet, but Adirondack Schiller wants to know any good 2-year-old in training to watch for debuting at Toga or Belmont this year.
Well, I certainly hope so.
I'm sure many will be coming in there.
The couple that we haven't so far, we have a practical joke colt, the training at Palm Beach Downs that will come
First
up to
crop.
Belmont. Yeah, and he's been working well. We'll bring him up to Belmont this week, and another Not This Time colt that's sort of at the same level, and an Into Mischief filly that Shadwell owns. I would say those three are probably the most likely to be ready sometime during the Belmont meet. But again, we're not in a super rush, but we don't want to take away anything that comes easily to them.
No, not at all. And with the practical joke, does he have the butt?
He does, actually. Yeah, he was a beautiful yearling, and he's owned in partnership with Rapoli and Viola and Gainesway, and they paid handsomely for him. And
Oh, he's gonna have a good name then.
Hopefully, yeah, he deserves one. Hopefully.
Oh, somebody's saying this, and I have to explain this away. Should the horseshoes on the wall in the background be turned in the other direction, Ren? I've been asked this before. I'm not superstitious at all. And there's two horseshoes, so maybe if you are superstitious, it cancels itself out then, right? These horseshoes right there are actually the horseshoes of Dialed In. And my friend Tracy, who's passed, she used to work for Darby Dan Farm, and she gave me those horseshoes of, again, Dialed In, who was a Florida Derby winner. And I got them on my wall, looking like they're crawling on up. So, okay, the 2-year-old's looking forward to Saratoga. You've got obviously a lot of horses to watch. This is going to be my question to like wrap up the general conversation, and then I'm going to, weave into letting you go. When you're looking at, all the success that you've had with young horses, what do you think has been the most important foundational thing that you yourself have put into them? Is it the gait? Is it the gait? Is it the stamina building drills in the morning? What is the key? Because we see so many horses who are capable, and somehow, if they just had, how often we've heard, oh, this horse had a lot of talent if only it had the right trainer. What is it about the training program that you provide that's going to set the horse apart?
Well, I mean, hopefully that you just make all the correct decisions at the important times, when to continue on, when to pull back a little bit, when to press, and when not to. And those are things that you just hopefully get a feel based on what feedback you're getting from the horse and how they're handling physically and mentally what you're doing with them. And they're going to give you some clues along the way that they're either thriving with what you're doing with them, or maybe it's too much and you need to back off a little bit. And so, those are all the kind of decisions that are pivotal in every horse's development. And, sometimes the straightforward ones you can just keep going forward with, and they thrive on it. But oftentimes they're going to give you some indications that they're not quite ready yet. And trying to make those decisions at the right time is key.
How hard is it for anybody who would say, I'd like to be a horse trainer? How hard is it? Because I would imagine especially with somebody who has as many horses as you do, I would imagine it's a lot like being a doctor on call. You don't really get a day off.
No, there's very few days off. But honestly, I don't want to miss too many days, because, everything can change in an instant. And you also have to have a great staff working behind you that maybe if you're at Saratoga and, you need your team at other locations giving you the right information, feedback, and making the right calls themselves in certain situations. So it's not for everyone. It's time consuming, and there's some really, really great highs, and there's some really, really low lows. And you have to try to keep that even keel through it all. And it can be challenging at times, because like I said, I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
No. How proud is your dad of you?
Well, I mean, he's been such a great mentor, and I think he has the right kind of personality to be in the horse business. He doesn't get too down, and he takes success in stride. And so I think growing up around him and seeing how he handled those type of situations has really helped.
And to have that still relationship where you're talking about how, a lot of these horses are going to be coming from him, putting the foundation in, and then honing them, chiseling them into their final form. It's gotta, on the one hand, it's gotta feel so right. On the other hand, to have such success, it's gotta feel surreal as well. And now here you are on the eve of getting the official announcement that you're inducted to the Hall of Fame. And I can't, as a, my kid's going to be 3, but still, I mean, to think of putting a child in a position that not only did they follow a career path that maybe I inspired in them, but to see them reach the very top of that, I can't even imagine how over the moon he is for you.
Yeah, I mean, he's both my parents. I mean, I was
Yeah,
blessed. I was blessed, to have 2 parents that were great role models and would do anything to help me and cared about my career and I think there's not a race that we win that my mom doesn't text me within seconds after they cross the wire. So it's one of the great things about being in this business is your whole family can take part in and enjoy it as well.
Well, how are you going to celebrate? This is a huge accomplishment. I'm guessing it's gonna be work as usual, but I would at least think you could get a nice dinner.
Yeah, we'll do something, I'm sure, just with the family and enjoy the moment and reflect some and be thankful for all the opportunities we've gotten and get up the next morning and start over
Get right
again.
back at it. Gosh, no, it's an honor to have you on the show, and because again, this resume is just so it's so deep, it's so profound, and from so many aspects within racing itself. Just talking about a lot of these horses that we already have, and if you open any catalog page, there's probably going to be a TODD Pletcher horse somewhere in the black type somewhere. And for you being at the sales, I'm sure it's a cool, maybe in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, I trained that horse. That horse got black type because we sent it out. But yet you are still so humble. So the final 2 questions are going to be this. 1, do your children want to pursue this with you? And 2, how do you keep not throwing the swagger around because you're TODD Pletcher?
Well, I think all my kids were, at the Derby and they liked it. I think from a professional standpoint, my oldest son Peyton's a senior at Texas A&M in animal science, equine studies, but he's potentially looking at vet school, which I've encouraged him to do for a while, and of course, all their decisions will be their own, but I think he's leaning in that direction. Then my younger son Kyle is a junior at Texas A&M, and he's in mechanical engineering, and he's too smart to be a horse trainer. So he's going to go somewhere in the engineering field. And then my daughter Hannah is a senior in high school, and she's committed to going to Wake Forest in August. And we're blessed. We have 3 really good kids that are good students, and I'm sure whatever they choose to do, they're gonna do well. But they all enjoy the horse racing, but at the same time, I'm not sure they want to commit to the lifestyle that it takes to train horses. But like I said, the one cool thing about it is they've been there for so many of those great moments, and when you get to share that with everyone, makes it that much more special.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, did you guys meet Tom Brady? Did they get to meet Tom Brady? He was there at the Derby.
Did not. I knew he was there, and actually, he was with Gronk. I wanted to meet Gronk, and because he's an Arizona alumni too, and
Oh my God.
didn't get to see those guys.
If I could meet either one, I mean, we could meet Tom Brady, but there's something about Gronk that's so crazy that I would just want to see that up close.
Yeah, absolutely.
But and so yes, to wrap this up, just the influence you've had over our sport. Thank you so much. And before I forget, there's one more, because you said you didn't hear about the TODD father. Do you know that we have a saying also? Leave off Pletcher, leave on a stretcher.
I've heard that before.
Okay,
yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah, that's a Paula Duca-ism, so I got to give him credit for that. But yeah, of course. But yeah, so it's just really been amazing to see all the influence you've had in our sport, and just the fact. I mean, this puts the emphasis on it, everybody. This puts the exclamation point. He wins with Malathaat. He trained dreaming of Julia, her mom. He wins with Colonel Liam. Guess what? He trained his sire, Liam's Matt, 2015 Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile champ. It's just insane. And when you look at it from that perspective, that you've had the influence on the track, you've had the influence in the shed, you know, I would say it's about time you're in the Hall of Fame, but you weren't eligible until this year. So big, huge congratulations to you, Todd. We wish you all the success because you have given our sport so much love and been a tremendous ambassador. And so there's really no words that can, you know, basically do justice to how thankful we are. But hopefully you can take that to heart anyway.
That's very nice. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. My special guest, Todd Pletcher, inducted or officially will be listed as a Hall of Fame inductee tomorrow, along with American Pharaoh, and we're hoping Rags to Riches gets in there too. And this has been your Future Stars Friday forecast on a 2-year-old Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed.